Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to look at Jayson Tatum. We're going to look at, in particular, 5 ways he uses his ability to get into the paint early and often, and how that creates his offense. Let's go. Number 1, I'm going to call it clearing the hand. So often you'll see defenders essentially reach out to establish contact with their outside hand, whatever it is. Jayson Tatum does a good job of making sure whenever they create the contact, he immediately separates that and uses that to, one, semi-off balance the defender, but more importantly, to make sure the defender doesn't have any kind of contact with him, to understand his movements or where he's going to be driving immediately. With any attempt to maintain contact, so here Payne is going to reach out with his right arm, you can see Jayson Tatum immediately goes to counter that by blocking it with his left arm, making sure there's no contact being made, and making sure Jayson Tatum is able to essentially use that as leverage to force it so he gets that first step, and using that first step to create the explosion. And the thing is, because this is so minimal contact, the referees are almost never going to call it, but you don't actually need to do it if they're making contact with you. You can do it even before they're making contact with you, simply because it gives you a point of leverage, and essentially like a wrestler, it gives you inside position where you can make that first step. We can see Halliburton here trying to maintain contact with that left arm. Okay? Tatum does a great job of moving it away, and then we're going to see this kind of in his next area, his spins as well, but he maintains the same philosophy as on the spin move. He immediately uses that inside arm, the right arm, to get rid of any contact that Halliburton has and use that to blow by him for the dunk, which feeds nicely to area number 2, and that's going to be his spin move. So the first thing is the spin move, the idea of discarding the contact, I think is the same concept. So here there's going to be a double here coming, but Jayson Tatum is essentially going to pick on Green right here, probably the weaker defender of these two. And this left arm is the one that he's concerned about. And so on that spin, essentially what it does is it frees on that contact and uses the momentum of the defender going this way, while Jayson Tatum is spinning and using his momentum going this way to create that burst of separation. So spin move, left hand makes contact. The left hand makes just slight contact to get a little more separation, to off balance the defender, and uses that to get that first step. Again, same concept. One important thing to note is most of the times when he spins here, he spins to the baseline. And the reason he spins to the baseline is because there's no help defense. Like Evan Mobley's right here, so he can help over a little bit. But if you spin to the baseline, the help defense has to come from further away, and it's a more clear, easier to see help, and so easier to adjust. So you can see Strus is going to put a hand on him right here. Okay. As he puts his hand on him, Jayson Tatum does a good job, that inside hand, so he spins, uses the momentum, but then the inside hand is creating just a little bit of contact. Nothing obvious is going to get a foul call, but just a little bit of contact to create more separation. This time you have a good defender on you, and same thing, he's going to spin towards the baseline. Okay, waits to that initial contact. One crucial aspect here is he doesn't let Toppin get set. As soon as this left arm goes out, he immediately goes, doesn't wait. Contact and spins immediately. Again, his inside arm creating a little bit of contact to add the separation, and uses that first step. Oftentimes, the first step is all you need. If you can win that first step, you have a good chance of winning the battle. All right, for this next one, I'm going to call it side to side. And one thing that's important is this one, I think, has much more to do with who the defender is versus just Jayson Tatum individually. So here, as I said, a ball screen, we're essentially watching this defender right here. And so Jayson Tatum's ability to go side to side is really going to be magnified if you have a slower defender on you, and a post player is usually going to provide that matchup. So Jayson Tatum with a quick crossover uses that to get leverage to go one step faster downhill. And this is the most clear-cut example here, and this is, they just set a ball screen right there to get the switch. So Wade's not necessarily like a traditional post player, but he's definitely not on the athletic ability Jayson Tatum is. And so Jayson Tatum clearly moves him side to side to try and get him just slightly moving one way or the other, so he can be moving the opposite direction where Wade is going. Wade is still going to the right now, and Jayson Tatum is aggressively going back to the left, and uses that to create that first step, forces help, and he can lob it to a dunk. You definitely don't see this quite as much with super athletic defenders. Like if Anthony Edwards was on him right here, he probably wouldn't go to this near as much. So first off, he goes in the body, Cat defends it pretty well, but Jayson Tatum uses that to essentially allow him to go side to side, the separation it caused. Okay, so Cat, he's going to the right, Cat's going to over adjust, and Jayson Tatum's going to go back to the left, and uses that to get the blow by penetration and finish at the rim. That being said, he still can use it on good defenders. Aaron Gordon's a very good defender here. And so one other key aspect to this is as he goes to this side-to-side move, he's almost always attacking this high leg. In fact, I would say he's like 99% of the time attacking this high leg, because it's harder for the defender to pivot from that leg, because that one's the one that's further. Essentially, you have to move this leg all the way back here to be able to get in a position where you can run this way, versus Tatum simply has to continue going in the line he's created. So because of that, because Aaron Gordon had to take long to pivot, the human body naturally doesn't pivot that way. Tatum was able to get that first step going downhill and no help meant a dunk at the rim. So the third category is going to be using defenders' momentum against them. So you can see this oftentimes when the defender is trying to anticipate something. A good example is when there's a ball screen. So Porzingis is going to come set this ball screen right here, and the defender is trying to get over the screen. This is why rejecting a screen is so crucial. At certain times, it gives you a huge edge. So the defender is going to lead over here and try and get this step right here. So Jayson Tatum's going to be like, okay, well, if you're going to cheat that way, I'm just going to go the other way. And because you have now both defenders essentially absorbed with Porzingis, you're going to have Jayson Tatum with no one on him essentially. And they're going to have to sprint to try and get in help defense. Defenders are distracted on the weak side, and it gives Jayson Tatum the opportunity to get downhill. But this is why being aware of your defender is so crucial, because you can take advantage of it to get slight edges. So right here, essentially Boston's setting a ghost screen. So Cornet in this example is like kind of going to make contact on Middleton, but not really going to make contact on Middleton. And the reason why this causes an issue is because Lopez isn't sure essentially how much to hedge over for Jayson Tatum versus stay with Cornet, because Cornet didn't make that much contact, you would expect Middleton to stay with him, but Middleton thought there was going to be a hard screen, so he kind of anticipated it, and so that's why Middleton's left behind slightly, and Lopez has to recover because he was slightly out of position back there, but again, Jayson Tatum uses that slight momentum to get that edge. And it doesn't have to necessarily be with ball screens, it can be any form, including your shooting gravity, or simply having a defender that's not very athletic. So Doug McDermott is the one closing out right here. And so because Doug doesn't want to give up this three-point shot, Jayson Tatum simply fakes it briefly and then goes to attack him. And I mean, frankly, there's no way Doug is going to be able to stay with him. And so Jayson Tatum is able to blow by and get the layup at the rim. And the final one is going to be using the body. And so this one actually happens usually more kind of like midway through the drive instead of early in the drive. And so if you're able to essentially keep your body under control while making physical contact with the opponent, it gives you a huge advantage because you can move them off their center line while you stay in control of what your body is doing. And simply moving somebody where they're slightly off balance makes them such a worse defender. And so that's why I always tell offensive players, you should be the ones making contact first every single time. If the referees aren't going to call a foul on it, or you're just making subtle contact, it gives you such an advantage. So here on this drive right here, first off, we can see the side-to-side attack, the high leg. But then because Mitchell does a good job recovery, Tatum uses his body, and that forces Mitchell to be off balance. He's on one leg right here, and Tatum just pushes him slightly that way. You're not going to be able to recover to get back to your right. And because Tatum is still on 2 feet, he's still on balance, he's able to go where he wants to go, where Mitchell has to go essentially where Jayson Tatum pushed him to go. And that gives Jayson Tatum a huge edge working one-on-one. Tatum's ability to clear the hand, spin, move side to side, use the defender's momentum, and use the body to create openings going downhill is part of what makes him an elite player, and something we can all learn from and apply to either our games or the players' games that we're coaching. If you enjoyed, feel free to like and subscribe, but most importantly, have a blessed rest of your day.